Hi everybody, it's Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world, and today is technically it's Friday, April 7th, but this will be uploading overnight, so it will be published on Saturday, April 8th, and this is Flosstube number 108. And the reason I wanted to get this filmed and up for Saturday, April 8th is because April 8th is the anniversary of Thirza, Priscilla, Dawes, 1870, a sampler that I reproduced and released exactly 1 year ago. I believe I did release it on April 8th, or I certainly tried. So I'm going to put some pictures in as I talk, because this is a sampler that kind of set off my love of doing antique reproductions. This was my first one, and I bought this sampler because it just really spoke to me. The colors and just all of the motifs. She crammed like every last thing she could on this sampler. And when I purchased it, I only knew how it looked from the front, and so it was a really pleasant surprise when I received it and I turned it around and saw how bright and vibrant the colors were on the back. And so I decided to chart this sampler in two colorways. So I did one based on the front and one based on the back, and I think they're both just so beautiful. You really can't go wrong with either version. But if you notice the date at the bottom of the sampler, it says April 8th, 1870. So was that the day that Thirza finished the sampler? Is that just the date she decided to stitch the date? Maybe she finished it later. Who knows? I mean, I think a lot of us stitchers have been guilty of stitching a project and putting a date in, like a year in our project, and then, because we're so confident we're going to finish it in that year, and then that doesn't always happen. But I'm going to just choose to think that Thirza maybe finished this sampler on or around April 8th, 1870. So it is the 153rd anniversary of this sampler. So I just wanted to celebrate that. This sampler is available as a chart that includes both colorways. So I'll link that down below if you want to go check that out. It has been far and away my most popular antique reproduction sampler. I was completely blown away by the response when I released this last year. And it to me, it was so special, but I didn't know if everyone else would feel the same. And so it was really nice that it seems like a lot of other people have appreciated Thirza, Priscilla, Dawes. So I stitched both colorways, but I decided I needed to stitch her again. The reason being, there was a stitch along that was starting up last year. It's kind of like petered out, but Bren and Karen at Fox and Rabbit were hosting like a monthly Zoom stitch along, and now they've kind of just combined it into like their regular like Fox and Rabbit monthly Zoom, and a lot of the people on the Zoom are still stitching Thirza. But I wanted to join in, and I had already stitched her, so I thought, what can I do to make this interesting for me to stitch a third time? Like, what colors can I do? Like, how can I change this? And, it's been a year, it's a little fuzzy, but I believe at some point I settled on, like, I'm going to just do an alternate colorway for Thirza. So I played in my DMC for hours and hours and hours, and I ended up settling on a palette of 34 colors. Now, Thirza has, I believe, 36 colors, so I did have to lose a color or two. The reason I decided on 34 was because I had this Flosstube, this Millennium Falcon Flosstube, that has 34 holes in this. Now, this was from Nerdy Needle Design Company, but that company has closed, so you can't get this any longer. But this was my alternative palette for Thirza. So I kind of just picked my favorite colors, right? Just purples, absolutely my favorites, jewel tones, teals, emeralds, and then I had a couple of like really bright pops of color in there. And I took these 34 colors and I basically recolored Thirza with these. Now, it is not a strict one-to-one substitution. For example, like if there's a color of green, I think DMC 15 is the light green in the border on, I think on the aged colorway. And then it appears like throughout the chart. I didn't just pick a different green and say like, this is my DMC 15, and then just plug it in and replace that green through the whole chart. I did not do like a one-to-one substitution. I actually took these 34 colors and I went into each motif and I just played around and had fun. So the reason this chart hasn't been released yet is because I'm still stitching it and I have to make sure the colors are going to work. And I also don't know what the colors are going to be until I get there. I've done like a mock-up, but anyway, so I thought this was more in spirit of how Thirza probably stitched her sampler originally. She, you know, when we stitch, we're following a chart, we're usually doing what we're told. But when a lot of these young people were stitching these charts, they had their flosses and then they were making decisions as they went. So Thirza had 36 flosses, like she had 36 wools, which is a lot. That is a lot of colors for a sampler. So she had quite a collection. And she took those 36 colors and she just plugged them in as she went. And she kind of just like, you know, grabbed the color that was calling for her at that moment or that she thought would work on that motif, whatever. She picked those colors as she went. And so that's what I'm doing with my 34 colors. I'm just picking as I go. But let me show you how far I've gotten. Now, a lot of this was done last year and I have not worked on her in a while. But I did grab her and get just a little bit done on her today. So I've done like maybe another hour of stitching. But this is my alternative Thirza Priscilla Dawes 1870. And this is on 40 count picture this plus murky. And this is using the 34 DMCs that I picked for my palette. And this is where I'm at right now. And I absolutely love this. And I forgot how fun this is to stitch because I think it's been almost a year. I think maybe the last time I worked on her was probably June of last year. It's been a long time. And I just forgot how fun she is to stitch because each of these little motifs are like mini finishes. So as you finish each one, it's a good feeling of accomplishment. And all of the color changing can be a little bit of a chore, but it also keeps it like fresh and fun. I think everybody will probably have a different opinion. Like some people would love that and some people probably would hate that. But I'm having fun. I'm having fun with changing the colors out. So yeah, this is where I'm at. And now that I've got her back out, I really want to give her some love. So she's not going away anytime soon. I'm definitely going to like at least spend a few days working on her. So that's again, 40 count picture this plus murky. This colorway is not available. I will release it when I am done. And here are all the colors, which I have not used all 34 yet, but they're coming. So I've gotten into several of them. One thing I will say, if you are stitching Thirza Priscilla Dawes in any colorway, I do recommend that you get your flosses ready before you start. And what I mean by that is whether you need to cut your lengths and put them on a thread keep, put them on floss drops, whatever your preferred method is of stitching, it is worth taking the probably couple hours that it's going to take to get those pre-cut lengths and get them ready, because she does have so many color changes that it's really hard to stop, get a skein of DMC out, unwind it, cut it, do all of that just to do like, 10 stitches and then move to the next color. So when I first started stitching this like a year ago, that's what I was doing. I had like all the DMC and I thought, oh, I'll just like, put it on floss drops as I go. And I think I got like these birds done. And then I was like, okay, nope. and I just stopped and I took a couple of hours and I just cut my lengths and put them on floss drops. It's worth it. It's worth it. Just do it. Just trust me. This is the third time I've stitched this. Just trust me. If you're stitching Thirza, Priscilla, Dawes, take the time to prep your flosses ahead of time. I'm doing one strand, so these are really short lengths. And then I just go in with my needle and I grab one strand from here and then I just pull it out and then I start stitching. And there's enough room on here that I can, if I have like a little bit left, I can tie it back onto the hole for when I get to that color again. But that will really save you a lot of time. So now I got to put that back on, but that's fine. So anyway, there's a Priscilla Dawes 1870. I will link that down below if you have not acquired this chart yet and you want to. Like I said, while I've been talking about Thirza, I hopefully have been showing you some pictures of her that I have saved on my phone because she's in storage right now. All three of her, my aged colorway model, my original colorway model, and the original antique sampler are all in storage. But I did take some pictures before she went away, where I really showed like the original compared to the model, and just so you can see like how carefully I worked to match those colors. And I'm really proud of that because I had to do that with 36 colors. And I really took my time. I took days to match the DMC to the front of the sampler and the back of the sampler. And I think some of those colors are just spot on, and I'm just really proud of how closely they match. So hopefully you enjoyed seeing like some of that like behind the scenes of that sampler. So all right, so excited. After this video is done filming and uploading, I will be working on Miss Thirza again. But I also finished a couple of things in the meantime. I finally finished Plum Street Samplers Peace, Love, and Purpose. This it was kind of a languishing whip. I had finished all the stitching and just needed to do all this blue fill-in. And I thought, oh, it won't take too long. And I mean, I knew it was a lot, but like this was going to be my car project, like for traveling, like fill in. And I just really thought this would be done pretty quickly, but it really took a long time. I mean, this blue fill-in is no joke. If you were stitching this chart, you probably already know that. It is intense. It is a lot, but it is done. It is done now. So this is it was a kit that I got from Country Sampler. So it's all the called for floss on the called for fabric. And I didn't make any substitutions. I just stitched it as is. So this is Peace, Love, and Purpose from Plum Street Samplers. It is finally done. I am so excited. So then I finished, I did a quick little pattern called Let's Make a Statement, number 2 from Dee's 20 Stitches. So a while back, it wasn't too long ago, was it maybe a month ago, Dee released Let's Make a Statement number 1. And so this is going to be a series of patterns. Let's Make a Statement number 2 was released on Trans Day of Visibility, and it says, trans folks always have been and will be. And this is my finish. This was a 2-day project, so this was a nice start and finish. These patterns aren't very big. They're all in the same color palette and I think the same size, so that you can make them. Dee has them finished as like a banner, like a pendant for a banner. And so you can kind of make the series kind of uniform if you'd like to hang them or do some. I don't know yet. I think I am going to do the banner and hang them, but I don't have all my stuff for that. So that'll be when I'm back with my stash. So random news, I will be back in Colorado this summer, and we are looking to settle back down. So in June, it will be 1 year that we've been on the road. So we plan to be back in a house, hopefully by July. So we will have completed our 1 year travels, and we're going to get settled back in. I think we're still going to travel, but it will be with a home base, and we will go on like legs of travel and then back and then go out maybe for a couple months and then back. So I still don't know what my work plans are going to be, because my job that I had was not one I could work remotely. So that's something we're thinking on. But anyway, that was a tangent just to let you all know. I will be back in Colorado in the summer. Right now I'm in California. And we're going to work, kind of mosey our way back over. So anyway, this was a 32 count linen that I got from a Starlight Stitchery box. So it didn't really have a name, and it's not something you can get. It was in one of the boxes that I got in the fall. It was either Season of the Witch, or what was the other one that came out right around then? One was Halloween themed. I don't remember what it was called. It was in one of those. And I did not use the only called for color is this gold. This is a DMC Etoile in 725. But the other ones I substitute more DMC Etoile. So everything's in Etoile except for the variegated, which is a DMC variations, I think are what they're called. And in the pattern D actually listed this. It's, you know, it's a number. I don't know it. It's in the pattern though. And then the rest were DMC, but I wanted the sparkle. So I just grabbed Etoile in the same colors, close to the same colors, and stitched mine to be sparkly. You're probably not seeing any sparkle, but it is sparkly. So that's Let's Make a Statement number 2. And then I have one more finish. So I had 3 finishes, which was great. What a great feeling. So I finished Mirabilia Halloween Fairy. This was just calling to me. I was talking to Kyle Reckmeyer. We were just talking Mirabilia because, you know, if you want to talk Mirabilia, like Kyle's your person, you know, like I think Kyle owns every single one. That might not be true, but I think he might. Like, he definitely collects all of the out of print. So he has all of the out of print Mirabilias. I don't know if he has all of the in print ones, but I mean, there's so many of them. But anyway, if you want to talk about Mirabilias, Kyle's your guy. So anyway, I was talking to him, and then I was like, I really want to work on a Mirabilia. So I grabbed Halloween Fairy out, and I just decided to stick with her until she was done. So she's done. Before I show her, I do want to just point out that I changed my colors. This is through Hoffman. You can get Halloween Fairy as a kit. It might be that you can only get her as a kit. But the problem is, this is a really old pattern. This is from the years on here. I saw it on here, 2006. This pattern is from 2006. And it calls for crescent colors, which are now classic colorworks. Well, over that many years, the die lots are so different now. So even though Classic Colorworks makes all of the colors that are called for in this chart, they just don't look like this anymore. So Hoffman kits this up as the chart and all of the Classic Colorworks. And then I got them, and I was just really disappointed because they don't look like this. So my orange, like there's 2 orange colors. So it's Tangerine and Tennessee Red Clay. So one's like a bright orange and one's like a brownie orange. And mine were like light salmon peach color. Like they weren't even orange. It was just not good. It was not good. So, and then the colors in the dress are Bunny Honey and Chocolate Cream Pie, which are these kind of like almost purpley browns. And mine were just like washed out tan. It wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look. So I was really disappointed when I received the kit, to be honest. It's not the fault of the designer or even Hoffman. It's just, or even Classic Colorworks. It's just that after 20 years, those colors are just not the same. So I took it as an opportunity to just really kind of change and make her my own. So I did pull oranges from Stash that did really closely resemble these. But for the dress, which is 2 colors, I just went totally wild and decided I'm giving her a purple dress. Purple is my favorite color. Purple and orange go great together for Halloween. I'm giving her a purple dress. The other thing I changed were in the wings. It calls for Dandelion Stem, which is just a mossy green. I decided to give her some like iridescent dragonfly kind of wings. So I used a DMC metallic, but it's one of those where it's less metallic and more like that pearly iridescent like plasticky kind of floss. Some of them are like truly metallic and some are more of that plasticky iridescent look. So I used the green, like a really pale green, and then like a pale green from Color and Cotton. So those were all the changes that I made. But I'm so happy with how she came out. So here she is. Oh, I also gave her darker skin tone. Her skin color was Bella Rosa, so I just grabbed like a tan from my stash. So this is my finish of Halloween Fairy. This is on 32 count Elixir from Extra Design. That just such an amazing fabric, but especially great for Halloween designs. Love this fabric. So yeah, like I said, I changed the oranges. I totally changed the dress color, and I changed the wing and the skin. Everything else I think I did use, like I changed the green inside the wings here, but it's not too different from what was charted. And I used the beads that came with the kit, and it calls for, it's just one color of bead, and there's not tons of beads on here. There's some in her, there's some in the wand, there's some in her head dress, and then there's some right here along the dress and along the wings. And I love her. I love her. I have a frame in mind. It's in storage and it might be too small. So I'm not going to finish her anytime soon. Once I can get back in there and dig it out, I can see. But it's like an oval frame with like ornate black detail on it. It was like a Michael's Halloween decoration. I think it might be too small, but I want to see, because if it's not too small, it'll be perfect. And even if it is too small, maybe I can find another. All I have to say, she's not going to be finished anytime very soon. Or fully finished, because she is finished. She's just not going to be fully finished. Okay, so those are all my finishes. So then I had just a couple of whips. So one part of the reason I don't have a ton of stitching to show is because I went really hard on the Modern Folk Embroidery 2023 year-long stitch along, which is called Reaching Skyward. And I was still on February, so I worked really hard to finish February and March, and it's a lot of stitching. So I have not gotten into April yet, but I do have the first 3 months caught up. And I think if I can stay on top of it, it's not too bad. So like the April section doesn't look that bad. It's just that if I don't get it done, then I'm trying to stitch April and May at the same time, and that becomes a lot of stitching. It is a lot of stitching, but I think just like Fruit of Plenty, if you can stay on top of it, it's manageable. So here is I'm so happy with this. This is my Reaching Skyward from Modern Folk Embroidery. So this is a 40 count fiber on a whim. I think the color is Dunes or Sand. The tag fell off and I'm just not sure, but I'm really leaning towards Dunes. I think it might be Dunes. It's got like a green gold modeling to it. And Sand and Dunes are close, but I think Sand doesn't have as much green or any green. So that's my best guess. And then I'm stitching this with the navy color is an NPI hank of silk, and then the rest are DMC. So the chart is charted with just 2 colors, and Jacob said, you know, just pick your 2 colors that you prefer. And I thought I was really doing something. I picked my navy, and then I picked this gold from DMC. It's like, I think it's 38.52. And I was just going to do it as 2 colors. And I started stitching and I stitched all this, and I just did not like the way this gold was looking. To me, it's reading yellow, but it is gold. It's reading yellow, but I just wasn't happy with it. It doesn't show up as well. Like I just didn't like it. So, but I'd already put so much stitching into it. I was trying to think, how can I salvage this? And I thought, let me add in another color and see. So I added in this green, and I was like, okay, I'm liking that a lot. I think I could even add in more colors. So then I went and picked 5 DMC colors. And added those to the navy, and now I'm absolutely obsessed with this. I'm so glad I did that. It was a happy accident because I really was going to stitch it with just 2 colors, but now I'm just loving how this is looking with 6 colors. I'm just picking as I go, like, okay, let's do purple here, let's do red here. And this chart has a few choose your own adventures. So like we have the whole chart, but then there are sections where you can pick, like for example, like right here, you can stitch this, or there's an alternate motif, and so you can kind of just pick which one you like better. Right here, you could there was a deer, or you could stitch the swan. So I'm just kind of, as I go, I'm just picking what I like and plugging it in. So I'm not stitching one or the other. I'm just stitching a total mix of both. And I'm just so happy with this. So I'm trying in the border, I'm doing an ombre, which you're going to be able to start seeing now. There's a gold, orange, and now we're into the red. Then it's going to go into the purple, and then back to red, orange, gold. So I just couldn't do the whole border in this gold again. I'm so tempted to rip this out because I'm not happy. I'm still not happy with this. But it's just so much stitching that I can't bring myself to do it. So I think I'm just going to have to learn to live with it. But I'm very happy with the ombre border that's happening over here. So there it is. I'm so happy with this. But I did almost completely burn myself out stitching this because I was working so hard to get it caught up. And the thing is, so I guess I was going to put it away, but let me just point out. So these navy borders or frames are all throughout this chart. They're everywhere. And they're just so much stitching. It doesn't always show, like when you glance at it, it's just beautiful, but you don't realize like how much framing goes into this. So like even here on the border, there's 2 lines of navy, 2 lines of navy. It's just a lot of straight line framing. And that to me is just like soul crushing. It gives such a visual impact, but it's not fun to stitch. And you know, Jacob, I absolutely love you and your design is beautiful. And this is not a criticism of the designer. It's not fun for me to stitch like just a solid line of like navy or black or whatever color it is. So like what's fun for me are like the motifs and the assisi and all of that stuff is fun. So what's really hard for me is like just stitching a straight line of navy. So I got burnt out because I was stitching so much in here of the frame. But I got it done, and I am going to hopefully get back to April, like in the month of April, and try to stay caught up with this. But it did kind of kill my stitching vibe for a day or two because it was just so intense. But I'm so happy with how it looks. I think it looks so great, but it was a lot. So I actually ended up reading a lot because I would like be like, okay, go stitch or go sit and read, because I was getting a little burnout on stitching. That doesn't happen to me very often. I know a lot of people go through, like, they lose their stitchy bug and they go through these like moments where they don't want to stitch. That's never happened to me. Like, and people will sometimes message me and ask me for advice. Like, how do I get out of a stitching slump? How do I get my stitchy bug back? And I'm like, I have no idea because I haven't like really had to deal with that. But I was feeling that, a little bit of that, but then I was able to like switch projects and get excited about something again. So like, we're okay. And now I'm excited to get back to it and get April going, because now that I'm caught up, I really want to stay on top of that. So, I have one more work in progress to show you. So this is another humongous year-long stitch along. This one is from Fox and Rabbit, and this one is called Royal Gardens. And I am very behind on this one, and it's really a lot of stitching, but I did get it back out just to get a little bit, like, to get some progress on this. So this is on 36 count ballet slippers from Fox and Rabbit. And I am stitching this with a, old Karen Water Lily silk, and I think it's called just Meadow. So it's a blue to green to pink variegated floss, which you can really see in here in the border. But over here in the central motif, I've been fussy cutting it and just stitching these as more of a, you know, just green or just pink or just blue. So this go round, I was back here in the border getting this filled in. And I did get this top border done, so I'm ready to kind of move down. So this one, what I've decided to do with this, because I'm already so far behind, and I know I'm not going to get this caught up the way I was able to get Reaching Skyward caught up. So I think with this one, I'm going to try to do maybe like a 30-minute a day or like 1 strand a day on this. I still don't think I would get caught up in doing that, but just so I can at least like keep chipping away at it. Especially like this border is really intense, and just intense in that you have to really count carefully and pay close attention. And it repeats. So it repeats through around the entire piece. And so just so I don't get like too bored with that, I think knowing like I'm just going to do 30 minutes and then I can go on to something else, I think that will help me like stay motivated to keep working on this. So I don't know for how long that will be the plan, but at least for a while, I want to do 30 minutes a day on this, or 1 strand a day, whichever. And then, you know, if the mood strikes, I can do more, I can keep going, but at least I will be, you know, getting a little bit of progress on this. So you will see this again, because that is my plan. So this is 36 count, and this is how big this piece is. She's big. She's big, but she is going to be incredibly stunning when she is done. Wow. All right, so that's all my stitching. I had just the one piece of haul, which was the Let's Make a Statement #2 from D's 20 Stitches, which I already showed you was a start and finish. That was all that I bought. So not much haul this video. Okay, so that's all the stitching. I'm going to talk about some books. So if you would like to X out of the video now, you will not miss any stitchy stuff. But let's talk about books. So I mentioned earlier that I was falling a little bit in, it wasn't a stitching slump, but I was just a little less interested in stitching, and I got really more interested in reading. If you've watched my videos for any length of time, and if you've watched my book sections of my videos, you know that I read a lot, and I'm always reading a lot. But I feel like over the last couple weeks, I was reading even more. So, part of that is that I went on like a book buying binge in like January, February, and March. I mean, it was bad. I bought a lot of books, like a lot of books, and I'm really, you know, being on the road, I'm not even supposed to have all these books in here. It's a lot of weight. Books are heavy. We have to really watch like how much weight we're hauling in our trailer. So, I shouldn't have all these books, honestly, but, I went from having like, you know, 5 books with me to having like 25 books with me. It's really bad. And I decided like I need to start actually reading these books. So I made a list, and I numbered a list of all of the books that I have with me that I want to read. And then I started doing random number generator. So basically I'm calling it TBR roulette. And when it's time to pick up my next physical book copy, I go spin the wheel and I let it decide. Now, this isn't a hardship because these are all books I want to read. I have them with me and I have bought them because I want to read them. But it's still very interesting because it might be like a book I would not have grabbed. It might have been a book that would have been on kind of the bottom of my 20 books that I have with me. So it's kind of keeping me challenged a little bit, like to read something that maybe wasn't what I would have grabbed. But it's actually really motivating me to like fly through and finish my books because I won't let myself spin and see what my next book is until I finish the book I'm reading. And so it kind of is like weirdly motivating me and like kind of getting me to that like race to the finish because I want to see like, what am I reading next? Because I don't know. Normally I know, like I'm finishing a book and I'm like, you know, I think next I'm going to read this or that. Like I'm already thinking of my next read. Now I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm reading tomorrow until I spin the wheel. So it's really like motivated me to finish my book. So I'm just letting y'all know that if that's something maybe you might want to try to give yourself a little motivation. I think it's working really well for me because I only have about 18 to 20 books on my list. And they are books I really do want to read because they are books I have purchased within like the last 6 months. So, if I was back home and I had access to all of my books, I'd probably have 100 books that I could put on this list, and that would just be really overwhelming. So keeping it around 20, and making sure, it's 20 that I really am motivated to read. It's really nice. It's really working for me. So, I'm always reading a physical book, listening to an audiobook on Audible or through my library, and reading a book on my Kindle at night. So yeah, I usually have 3 books going. Okay, so the first book that my TBR roulette spun was My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. So this is a book that I've been hauling around since I think I brought it on the initial leg of our trip, like in June. So, it's just been one of those I just haven't gotten to. I haven't gotten to it. So, spinning it did like motivate me to actually get to this book. So Tessa Bailey has become like an auto-buy author for me. Like every book she's come out with in the last year or 2, and she's pretty prolific. She comes out with like 3 or 4 books a year. I bought every one. Her older stuff is really hit or miss for me, but her newer stuff has been so good. So It Happened One Summer was like her smash hit. Then there was the follow-up to that, which was Hook, Line, and Sinker. And then she had a holiday one, Window Shopping. She came out with this one, My Killer Vacation. And then she had, most recently, she had one, Secretly Yours. Maybe there's another 1 or 2 in there. But anyway, I've loved them all. So My Killer Vacation was not like as well received. I think this one got really mixed reviews and some people really didn't like this. So I kind of went in to this with like a little bit of trepidation, but I actually really loved this. So this is a contemporary romance. So Tessa Bailey writes these modern romances, but her signature, what she's known for, is that she has a lot of like dirty talk in her spicy scenes in her books. So it's usually like the male love interest is really just vocal in the bedroom or whatever location things are going down in. But this one is features she's a school teacher and she goes on vacation in Cape Cod, and she's on vacation with her brother. They get to the Airbnb and there's a dead body, and so it starts this like murder investigation. They're not suspects because it obviously happened before they got there, but she's been listening to a lot of like true crime podcasts and she's like, I can help solve this case. Meanwhile, like the bereaved sister of the man who was murdered hires a private investigator to come and help solve the case because the sister doesn't feel like the police are like gonna do all that they need to do to figure it out. So they have like this instant connection, and then they fall in love. Like that's the thing, right? It's not a spoiler when I'm talking about a contemporary romance to tell you that they end up together at the end. But anyway, this was really good. It's that classic Tessa Bailey. Like she's really witty and funny. Like she almost always has like this witty banter back and forth with the 2 love interests. And usually like some laugh out loud moments. So this was funny and spicy and I really liked it. I'm not sure why it's gotten really mixed reviews and like some people just really haven't liked it. The only thing I can figure out is the hero is like a bad boy, like commitment phobe, and maybe that's just not like vibing with people. But I liked it. I thought it was really cute. So it was good. All right. So then on my Kindle ABC challenge, where I'm running through the alphabet and picking a Kindle Unlimited book for each letter of the alphabet. And I was on E, and E was actually really hard. I had to look forever to find a book that started with E, which is so weird. There's certain letters that I have like too many options. Like, for like the letter H, I have like 4 books I want to read and I have to figure out which one. But like for E, I could not find an E. The couple that I found were like book 2 or 3 in a series. And I was like, well, no, I don't want to just jump in the middle of a series. So I finally found one. It's called Empire of Desire by Rena Kent. And I had just seen this recommended somewhere. And so I thought it looked good. And, you know, that's how I ended up with this book. So this is a Kindle Unlimited romance. So it's not exactly a dark romance, but it's kind of in that darker vein. Kindle Unlimited romances tend to be like mafia or dark romance or just really, really spicy, smutty, or taboo kind of romance. So I don't think this one is particularly dark, but there is some taboo. So it involves, the young heroine is in love with her father's best friend, or at least she has a big crush on him. And it's her father's like best friend and business partner. So there's an age gap. It's not quite as gross as it's going to sound because I think she's 20 and he's 38. So it's not like, you know, it's not like he's like 48 and she's like 16 or something. But there is an age gap. And he, of course, does not want to have anything to do with her because she's too young and it's his best friend's daughter. But they enter a marriage of convenience due to some circumstances. And then they actually do have this connection and then they fall in love. So it ended up actually being a pretty good read. It wasn't something that like blew me away, knocked my socks off. It's not like an all-time favorite. But just like a really solid, like decent Kindle Unlimited read. Like I think I'd give it like 3.5 stars out of 5. It was just, it did what it needed to do. Like, again, didn't blow me away, but like it hit the right notes. Like it was fast and easy to read. It was written well enough. The smutty scenes were really, really smutty. I will say that Rena Kent definitely does not hold back in that way. And yeah, I mean, like, it was good. It was good. I wasn't like blown away, but it was good. So then I spun my TBR roulette and it pulled, The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. This was a recent purchase. I bought this, I think in February at Barnes & Noble. They were doing like a buy one, get one half off. And I had never heard of this one, but the title like intrigued me. And so I went and like I read the back and I was like, you know, that actually sounds really good. Like I've never heard of this book though, but it sounds good. But it actually has blurbs from other authors that I've really enjoyed. So on the back, there was actually several blurbs from other authors who were like, this book is wonderful. So I was like, you know, I like a lot of these authors. The plot summary sounds interesting. Like I'm going to give it a chance. So I bought this, but I probably wouldn't have read it anytime soon. But because my TBR roulette pulled this book, I was able to read it probably sooner than I would have. And I loved this book. So this is, I think, I would call this like a romantasy. It's a romance primarily, but there's some fantastical elements to it. But it's very light on the fantasy. So I think this could be a good book for someone who's like maybe dipping their toe into that genre and isn't really like sure they want to go like full on like fae werewolf kind of fantasy. But it features it's set in an alternate like reality from ours, but it feels like a more primitive, like Western, I mean, not primitive. I would say like, it feels like, maybe like early 1900s or late 1800s, like, recently settled, like desert America. That's just the vibe. But there are, in this city or this district, there are, oh my God, this is so hard to explain. There are, maybe I should just read you the back. No. There are these, our soul, when we die, our souls are released. And in this one area, your soul can like re-inhabit a corpse and basically like raise a zombie. It sounds weird, but it makes sense, like in the book. And so there are marshals who are tasked with like tracking down these zombies and ridding the souls, like so the souls can go rest in peace. And then they have to take these bodies to the undertakers, so to be like processed. So the Mercy is an undertaker and Hart is a marshal, and they have like a very cantankerous relationship. Like when they first met, like they were both having bad days and they kind of snapped at each other, and then they both kind of had this like prejudice of like, well, you're a jerk, like I can't stand you. So for years they've kind of just butted heads every time they have to like work together in a professional capacity. But what ends up happening is Hart, the marshal, gets really, and this isn't like a spoiler, this is on the back and this is like in the first chapter. He's had a really bad day and he writes like a letter just to nobody. Like he writes like, you know, dear friend, like a pen pal letter. But he's not meaning to send it to anybody, and he's just like kind of pours his heart out a little bit, and then he like throws it in a mailbox and it actually gets delivered, and it gets delivered to Mercy. She doesn't know it's from him, she doesn't know who it's from. And they start writing back and forth to each other, and so they're forming like this deep connection, but in real life they don't really like each other. So it was like I said, it's more heavy on the romance, and there's like a little bit of this fantastical like stuff going on around them, but it's not like a really heavy feature of the book. I loved this. This is absolutely my favorite book I've read this year. I loved it. I could not put it down. I just ate it up. About halfway through, I realized it was a Pride and Prejudice inspired retelling. And that's probably why I loved it so much. But the author does like, you know, own that. It's not like a ripoff or anything. In the book, Mercy's favorite book is like her world's like version of Pride and Prejudice. And they actually like talk about it and talk about the characters and, you know, how much they love the book. So like it's an homage to Pride and Prejudice. Also super cozy small town. Also zombies. So like it's it's weird, but it works. The writing, it was just so easy to read. I could not put this down. I just flew through it, and I thought it was so sweet. It was so swoony. I love a good like Pride and Prejudice, like, you know, secret pining and sassy, snarky banter. And it even had like some spice, not heavy spice, but like there was some spice in here too. So it was wonderful. I cried like 4 times reading this. It's just like ridiculous. But part of it is because I'm just going to tell you that, and this isn't a big spoiler, Hart, like part of what's made Hart like so lonely and closed off is that like he lost his beloved companion, furry companion. And it doesn't happen in the book. Like it was, and it actually had happened like maybe years before, but he kind of like occasionally will reflect back on like the loss of his best friend. And there's just some sweet, like poignant moments that just like reminded me of losing my buddy. And it just, you know, so, and then there was like a couple of scenes not related to that also made me cry. So I laughed, I cried, I swooned. I loved this book. I have no idea why nobody's talking about this book. And it didn't come out that long ago. I think it was like August 2022 was what I looked at. Yeah, August of 2022. So it came out like late summer. But I've not heard a single person talk about this book. Nobody. And it was wonderful. So go get it if any of this sounds intriguing to you. I loved it. Favorite book of the year, for sure. Okay. Oh my God. I've been talking for a long time, so I'll try to be a little I'll try to be a little snappier. And this next book, I don't even want to talk about it really. So I will though, for you guys, I will. I finally read Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. So, you know, during the Twilight Renaissance that's been going on, Stephanie Meyer released Twilight from Edward's point of view. So original Twilight is from Bella's point of view. We never know we don't know what's going on in there with Edward. So she wrote a book that is far, far too long about Edward's point of view during the events of Twilight. We didn't need it. But I read it. Here's the thing. Like, at first it was very intriguing. It was really interesting, you know, to hear how Edward just wanted to murder her. Like, I thought it was hilarious. He just wanted to drink her blood. He just wanted to kill her. He was very conflicted and tortured about that, of course. It was really interesting for a little bit to like get in his head, but then it just went on forever. I mean, we were in his head for, I think, 25 hours. Why is this book so long? This book is it's too long. It's too much. I remember looking down, and I listened to my audiobooks like sped up, but it was still way too long. I remember looking down and I was like 2 hours into the book, and he, I think, had just like walked into biology class. Like it had been 2 hours, and they hadn't even like, the story hadn't even started. It was just too much. There were some like interesting bits. You got some like cool backstory about like Edward and his like history, but why was it so long, Stephanie Meyer? Why? It was too long. It could have been half that long and it still would have been really like pretty interesting. So yeah, I didn't love it just because it went on forever and I just needed, like, there was no plot. Like, I mean, it was the plot of Twilight. It just took forever to happen. And we were just, I mean, the angsty, like, self-flagellation, like, just, it was too much. It was too much. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. But did we think it was going to be? Like, I didn't think it was going to be good. But I needed to read it, so I did. Okay, so then my TBR roulette pulls The Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner. Now this, again, is a book I would not have probably ever picked up. This is one of those books that I grabbed it because it said Jane Austen and it was like a couple bucks at the used bookstore. And then it probably would have sat on my shelf until the end of time, if we're being honest, because it's historical fiction, which is fine, but like not something I'm gravitating towards. I don't know that I would have ever picked this up, at least not anytime soon. But this book was absolutely charming and delightful if you are a Jane Austen fan. So it features, it's set in like the 1940s, and it's set in the town of Chawton. Chawton? I don't even know how that's pronounced. Chawton? And this was the final home of Jane Austen. So through her adult years, she lived in a couple of places and wrote her books in a couple of places, but her last residence was in Chawton, and she wrote, I think 3 books there. Like, she finished her last 3. So anyway, this was like her final resting place. Well, no, she was buried near, anyway, this is where she last lived. Okay. So it's the 1940s, and some people in this town decide, like, we need to like preserve this home and make it like a historical site. We could maybe like restore it. And so it's about these like kind of ragtag group of people coming together, like, to form this society to save the home of Jane Austen. But it's just very sweet and charming and wholesome. So I will say, if you're not well versed in Jane Austen, this book probably would just be fine for you. Like, it would be readable, it would be okay, but you might not like really sink into it and love it as much as like a Jane Austen aficionado such as myself. because what I really enjoyed about this book is that the characters talk to each other about Jane Austen characters. So it's like talking to a friend about a book you love, right? So like they'll have a conversation and they'll be like, well, you know, Lizzie Bennet did this and this, and then Darcy did this, and like, here's how I felt about it. And then the other character's like, yeah, totally. But also, did you ever think that maybe it was like this? And so like they have these like conversations about Jane Austen. So it's like a love letter to Jane Austen fans. But what was also really cute about this is that each of the characters in the society kind of like mirror a Jane Austen character. And they're not like direct ripoffs or anything, but like there is like kind of the older spinster who had fallen in love when she was young, but her father told her he wasn't a good match, so she rejected him, and then she never remarried. So she's like, that's Persuasion. She's Anne from Persuasion. There's a character who is like, you know, likened to Emma. And there's a character who's very much like a Colonel Brandon kind of character. So there's just, it's really like a treat if you're a Jane Austen fan. It was really cute. Everybody gets like a happy ending, and it was really swoony at points, and it was an easy read. So if you're a Jane Austen fan and you like historical fiction and any of that sounds fun for you, like it was sweet. It was a sweet book. Somebody said something about this is a book to read again and again whenever your faith in humanity is threatened. So I could see it's like a cozy comfort read. I could see that being. Okay, so then I continued. We're almost done. I just have 2 more books. We continued the Kindle Unlimited ABC Challenge. So I had read Empire of Desire, so it was time for an F. So I read Flawless by Elsie Silver. Now this was a book that I had marked because I had seen it recommended like on BookTube. And so Elsie Silver writes contemporary romance, not dark romance, just regular romance. But she is, I think she's Canadian. Her books are set in Canada. But it's like a Yellowstone, like Wyoming, Wild West, like kind of vibe. So it's set in Canada, but like on rodeo, cowboy ranch, like kind of stuff. So this book features a professional bull rider, and he has made millions in sponsors. He's like famous because he's gorgeous and whatever. So he makes like a faux pas and he trash talks milk. He says something, he's caught on camera saying that he hates milk, and that's like so bad because like his sponsors are like, how dare you diss like ranchers and farmers like that, and like his sponsors are getting pulled and he's gonna lose money and it's like a bad situation. So he needs like an image rehabilitation. So his management company, the guy who runs, like, who's his manager, agent, no, agent's different. I think it's his management. Anyway, his daughter works at the company with him, and he sends her out to like babysit this guy. His name's Rhett. I always forget the names. You know, I forget the names. So anyway, her name's Summer, and I only know this because I just finished this. So Summer goes to babysit Rhett, but like they have an attraction, and you know, so she's trying to keep it professional because she's like, look, I'm here to do my job. I gotta impress my dad. And he is like, you are so hot. Oh my God. And she's like, you're just a playboy. Like you know, you're hooking up with all the buckle bunnies on the rodeo tours. And he's like, I'm not like that. And anyway, then they fall in love. But it was really cute. I actually really did enjoy it. I think it's one of those, it's just solid. It is a solid romance. Like, it's really well written, really easy to read. Like, sometimes when I start a book, I have to like kind of adjust to the author's writing style. And sometimes it takes me like 20% into the book before I can like smoothly read it. But this one was one where I could just like immediately fall into it, and just, it was really easy to read. It was cute. It was funny. It was sweet. It was really spicy and steamy, all the things. A good plot, a little bit of angst, but not too much angst. like low stakes. To me, it felt like pretty low stakes. I just thought like it was just really well done and solid. Not like an instant all-time fave, but like really good. Like I'd say like 4 out of 5 stars. Like just a really solid, good Kindle Unlimited romance. And I've heard that this author, Elsie Silver, like her other books are really, really good. So I definitely would continue reading the books in her series because I really enjoyed this. I've got one more book to talk about. So the next book that spun on my TBR roulette was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. And I know Bridge in the Museum Stitcher had read this book and really, really loved it and had told me she thought I would really like it. And I was like, no way, I just bought this book because I had been at my used bookstore back in Colorado. I had gone in and just like randomly picked this up and thought like, well, that looks interesting. And I'm like, I literally bought it like 2 weeks ago. And she's like, oh, well, I loved it. You should read it. And of course, I'd never gotten around to reading it until it spun on my TBR roulette. But this is a contemporary romance, and this one is really unique, not like anything I've read before. So it features the main character, Florence, is a ghostwriter for a well-known romance author who's gotten really up there in years. So it's like, think about like somebody like ghostwriting for like Jude Devereaux or Nora Roberts or something like that. So she's like in New York City, like living, I think she's a millennial. I don't know how old she is exactly. You know, living paycheck to paycheck, eating ramen, whatever, living, you know, a kind of lackluster life in New York and ghostwriting these romance novels. And then she ends up like going through a really messy breakup, having her heart broken, and she doesn't believe in love anymore. And she cannot finish. She has like one more book she needs to complete for her ghostwriting contract, and she just cannot write anymore. She's like, I don't believe in love. I can't figure out how to like wrap up this book and end this book. And she's really struggling. And so she gets a new editor, and she goes to meet with him, and he's like, you gotta, like, the book has to be delivered like tomorrow. You gotta finish the book. And she's like, oh no, what do I do? So anyway, that's like kind of how the book starts. I don't know how much of this is a spoiler. I think some of this is okay. It's on the back, so it's not a spoiler. So her editor like dies, and she can see ghosts. So she has grown up in like this super cute small town. And her family runs a funeral home. And so it's a little bit like a 6 Feet Under kind of vibe, but her and her father can see ghosts. No one else in the family can. And she's been like ostracized and run out of town because people are like, you are freaking crazy. So she doesn't want to go back to town, but something happens. She has to go back to town, to her hometown. And then like her editor, his ghost like shows up on her doorstep, and she's like, oh my God, why are you here? And they decide like he's died unexpectedly, and he's there to help her like finish her book so that then he can like pass on to the other side. So that's like the premise of the book. But she ends up like, she's kind of falling for him, but like he's a ghost. So of course, like the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be like heartbroken because she's going to fall in love with a ghost. Like, this is horrible. So I did kind of like guard myself for that, like emotional devastation. But it was really good. It was really funny, really sweet. Mostly like also just an exploration of like grief. But it didn't get like so heavy. It was like a hopeful, like uplifting exploration of grief. And just, like I said, like not like anything I've ever read before, but really good. I really, really loved this. And Bridget was like, I knew you were going to love it. And I'm like, I did. I loved it. I finished this yesterday, and I was like at the halfway point, and I picked it up and I could not stop. I read like 150 pages. No, I read like 180 pages and finished it because I couldn't put it down. It was so good. In the back, the author has like a little like essay, like reader's guide kind of thing. And she talks about how, she talks about comfort reads. And she's like, that one book that protects us in the exact ways it needs to. Just like, kind of like, I just thought that was really interesting because I feel like this could be like a comfort read, even though it sounds like really sad and horrible. Like, I don't know. It felt like really cozy. The small town like aspect of it was done really well. It doesn't take itself too seriously. So she's a writer and he's an editor. They're both in publishing. So like, there's a lot of like tongue-in-cheek references to like other authors and tropes, like romance tropes, which is really, really cute. Like, they're like, okay, like if this were a romance book, like what would happen next? And they kind of talk about like those things like, well, there'd be one bed at the inn, and you know, those kind of like funny, cute romance tropes that just kind of like a little nod to the romance readers. They reference some authors like Nora Roberts, things like that. So it was really sweet. It was really good. Does not leave you heartbroken in the end. And she does believe in romance again at the end. So I don't want to like spoil anything big, but it sounds like it's going to be really sad, but I promise you it's going to be okay. It was really good. I really love this. Definitely like a new favorite. So The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy is still like my favorite, but this is like a really close second. I really did love that. So those are all the books. Let me just double check my list. Yeah. Okay. Those are all the books I wanted to talk about today. And I didn't even try to rush, so I feel like I talked about those books forever. So, all right, that's all I got. I'm going to leave now. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.